Hello everyone, and today I'm going to be going through very detailed steps on how to use a C-stand. If this is your first time seeing a C-stand, it might look a little weird, but this is a very important tool for film sets and photography sets. A C-stand consists of the legs, the risers, the gobo, and the arm, and all of these have very specific uses and ways to use them. Let's start by how to open a C-stand. There are two ways to open a C-stand. The first way is raising it on your shoulder and opening the legs with your hands. I find this way a lot faster because you can walk while you're opening a C-stand. The second way is turning it upside down and opening the legs through that way. Some people might find it easier to do because they don't have to keep the C-stand raised. Before you put any load in the C-stand, it's important to put a sandbag on the legs to make sure it doesn't tip, hurt someone, or cause damage on the equipment. This step is very important because you need to make sure to put the sandbag at the highest leg, the biggest leg of the C-stand. You also want to make sure that the sandbag isn't touching the ground because you want all the weight to be on the C-stand. If you want to put extra sandbag, you can put it on top of the existing sandbag, or if you have more and it's about to fall, you can put it on like this, where it crosses over the center of the base. The next important rule to remember is righty tighty. This is referring to the position of the arm to the gobo or the grip head. To make sure you're doing it right, make sure the knuckle of the gobo is pointing towards you and that the weight of the arm is going right. You want to have it righty tighty, so if you put an equipment at the end of the arm, you want to make sure that with the added weight, it will only get tighter. So none of the things that you put on the end of the arm is going to fall off and hurt someone. A trick that I use to make it super secured is that I get it close to where I want it, tighten the gobo, and then crank it down to the right, making it even more tighter so it doesn't fall. And here's the example of tightening it the other way, lefty-loosey, which you don't want to do because once you put weight on the C-stand on the arm, it can easily get untightened and the risk of the light falling down is very high. If you get into a situation where you tighten it too much and it gets stuck and you can't turn it on the knuckle, you want to crank the arm to the other side, lefty-loosey, until the knuckle gets loose enough for you to turn it. Now let's move on to the uses of the grip head. There are two grip heads on the C-stand, one on the gobo, which is at the top of the C-stand, and one at the end of the arm. And they both have two holes. One is used for a baby pin, which a lot of the film equipment will have. For example, 4x4 frames and other grip equipment. The smaller hole is for flags, like this 24x36 solid. A C-stand can also turn into a light stand, so if you just take out the gobo, you'll have a baby pin ready for you, so any lights with a baby pin receiver can be used on top of a C-stand. Also, another trick that you can use is there's actually a part of the gobo that you can use to grip any thin equipment. You can fit an ear for a 6x or larger frames, but you also want to be careful loosening the gobo too much because there is a pin that makes sure the gobo is aligned, so make sure that it is aligned and you're not damaging the gobo. The last important rule of using a C-stand is you got to make sure that the big leg is towards the weight of the C-stand. Doing this will keep the C-stand from falling and hurting someone. This might not be too obvious when you're not dealing with a lot of weight and the C-stand is not raised high enough, but when you're dealing with a lot of weight and the C-stand is almost to its max height, it's very easy for the C-stand to fall if the big leg with the sandbag is not in line with the weight of the arm. Here's some examples of what would happen if this rule is broken. If you do need to adjust the position of the light, you should not turn it from one of the risers. The safest way to turn a C-stand with load is to turn the whole C-stand together so that the leg and the arm are still aligned. You can do it by either lifting the whole C-stand if it's not heavy enough, or you could do it the long but safe way by taking off the light, taking off the sandbag, and moving the position of the C-stand where you want it. Now let's talk about the different types of C-stands. So there are two sizes, 40-inch and 20-inch, and there are three types of legs. There is the standard leg, the Rocky Mountain, and the C+. Let's start with the Rocky Mountain C-stand. The Rocky Mountain legs is used mostly for stairs or uneven ground. It does this by making the top leg able to slide up and down so that it can adjust to any elevation of the stairs or any uneven ground. The next type of C-stand is the standard base C-stand, and it doesn't really do anything special like the C Plus or the Rocky Mountain. It just opens and closes, and the reason why people still use it is because it's usually cheaper to rent. The other type of C-stand base is the C Plus. This just means you could detach the legs to the rest of the C-stands. And the legs actually serve a different purpose now. It can actually be a low stand, a turtle base. And when you take off the top of the C-stand, it actually has a 2K junior pin receiver, which a lot of big lights have. I also prefer the C Plus C-stand other than the other legs because it's easier to store or transport when you have to split the legs and the C-stand, and knowing that I have a 2K low stand whenever I need it. These small stands also carry the 3 different types of bases, except for the mini base, which only comes in Standard and Rocky Mountain. These low C-stands are used to get into smaller spaces and support things where other C-stands can't reach. Now let's move to the 20-inch C-stand with the small base. The only downside to the C-stand is that it's very easy to tip and it's not as sturdy as the standard base legs. The other 20-inch C-stand comes with the standard base. This is a more sturdy stand because it has wider base, but also offers the low elevation that the 20-inch C-stand mini base offers. The C-stand is probably one of the most versatile tools on the film set if you know how to use it. You can get really creative with it. You can even make a Christmas tree or build a structure, build a whole lighting grid with it. But here are some of the common tips and tricks that I've found helpful when I was on the film set. The first one is double arming a C-stand. And you would usually do this if you have to reach really far, but you can't have the C-stand in the frame of the camera. So you just connect 2 arms. The limitation for this setup is that the light or whatever you're hanging can't be that heavy because the arms will bend, and also you would need a lot of sandbags and support to have the arm that far. I would only recommend arming with 2 arms without support. And if you actually want to have a more secured, longer arm, you could use this trick, which is a strong arm, and this is achieved by combining the 2 arms together so that they're actually more supported. I've used this trick more often than the double arm because it's more supported, and also if there's actors going under the C-stand, the chances of the C-stand falling are very low. This next setup is similar to a lighting grid, and to make this you actually need 2 C-stands, an extra arm, and an extra gobo. And you're just facing the C-stands towards each other, making sure they're righty tighty, sliding the 3rd arm through both, making sure that the gobo's in the middle. This is probably one of the most supported setup you could do when hanging a light because you are using 2 C-stands. The weight is distributed between 2 stands and they're actually supporting each other. I've used this a lot on podcasts where I need to get the light high enough in front of the subjects but not in the frame of the camera. This next setup is more of a safety purpose, and this is when you use a C-stand to support another C-stand or other structures. This setup also prevents an arm being bent when there is a heavy load on the C-stand. I would highly recommend this when you think that your C-stand setup needs a little more support so that it won't fall on the set, or worse, injure your actors or your crew members. Now I'm going to show you guys how to pass a C-stand where no one gets pinched and hurt. First, you have to make sure that you're holding the C-stand with the arm and the trunk of the C-stand. This is so if the other person is grabbing it from the outside, your fingers won't get pinched. Now that you know the basics of how to use a C-stand, now it's time to pack it up and put it away. So just like opening the C-stand, there are 2 ways of doing it. The first way is flipping it upside down and closing it that way. Or you could do it my way, where I use my leg to close it. Keep in mind that a C-stand is a tool, and like other tools, there are limitations, like not putting too much weight on the C-stand. These stands do last long, that's why it's called a century stand, but you also have to be careful that some of the gobos and some of the grip heads can get rusty over time and they might not support or grip as tightly as you want. But that's it for this video. I hope you guys learned how to use a C-stand properly. Thank you guys for watching. Stay safe on film sets, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.